Good evening and welcome to the planning board meeting of Tuesday, September 5th. These meetings are recorded. I'll take a motion on the minutes.
Make it.
Motion by John, seconded by Lena. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. We have an 81P for Gordon Drive.
Okay, good evening. My name's Peter Lavoie. I work with Gary Aaron Helnon. I'm here tonight representing Andrew Swift. Basically why we're here is we have a large parcel like this off of Mellon Street in Gordon Drive. The Bellingham-Milford town line runs right through it. Basically what we want to do is we want to cut one lot out like this in orange, which is roughly 45,000 square feet, and then leave the rest as another lot that's going to be in Bellingham. Basically the same size, 45,000.
Simple.
Okay. Any questions from the board? As Larry would say, it's endorsable as submitted. Pleasure of the board.
Motion.
Motion from Joe, seconded by
I'll second.
John. Any further discussion? Here not. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, four.
Pretty straightforward.
Dave's not here, so. Karen, when you're ready, if you could read off the first public hearing, since it is now 7:01.
Application of the Board of Selectmen to amend the zoning bylaw relating to marijuana establishments and further by prohibiting marijuana retailers.
How's that?
All yours.
More to read than that, but I don't know, is this on or talking into the mic? What you've got before you, as you know, is actually two articles submitted by the Board of Selectmen. And the first one that came to you is the one that I think, if you have it, the same version that I do, across the top, marijuana retail sales zoning bylaw ban. In that first version the board considered was submitted to your board after they got it and considered it. They submitted it. And that one would ban retail sales anywhere in town. And that would, of course, only be after a vote at town.
Town meeting.
No, the vote of the voters.
Referendum.
Which is scheduled, referendum, which is scheduled. They gave it, so obviously gave it some more thought. They asked for another version, which would go beyond that and ban all retail recreational marijuana activity, including cultivation, testing, and other activities. So that's the second version you have before you. And that's the one that, at this point in time, that they put on the ballot, because the law, as it also changed in the process, required that the language of an article that's proposed, going to be proposed, be on the ballot questions, and so it is. And the one that's on the ballot question is the second one that would ban all the recreational activity in town. So you have those two before you as zoning articles, notwithstanding the proposed vote of the voters, and you really have to and should come up with a recommendation on each one of them. And they are exactly as I said. The first one would ban only the retail dispensing, so there couldn't be any retail stores in town, but you could have cultivation, you could have other activity. The second one would ban all related recreational marijuana activity, including cultivation, testing, and whatever else would be short of sales. I presume, right now, if it passes at this special election, I've forgotten the date of it, but you probably know,
18th, 19th.
18th and 19th, yeah.
19th of September.
If that passes by the voters, then the selectmen, I presume, will put the second version on the warrant. Well, that's their choice, and so you should not, make a decision and take no action on one. Take action on both of them, make your recommendation on both. If it doesn't pass the voters, nothing will be on the warrant, so it just won't go forward. So it really is that simple. Do you have any questions? I'm happy to answer them.
Well, the ballot question only addresses two, though?
The ballot question has within it the text of the second one, the one that has the broader ban. That's correct.
So the town will have no idea whether people want it in terms of no retail, but cultivation.
It won't be an option, frankly. The voters that go to the polls will only have the option of voting on
Allowing
that
it?
version.
Well, yeah, allowing retail or really effectively
Some
not
retail
allowing it.
Not allowing it at
Nothing
all.
to do
No,
with
nothing though,
recreational.
but it wouldn't be distribution, it wouldn't be manufacturing, it wouldn't be anything.
Right.
That's,
Has the police chief commented on either version?
I don't know if he has or not.
I mean, I just see no, I see no way that he's gonna be able to police the second version. I don't know how we would
Well,
do that. I mean,
it's not the police,
illegal, but-
it's not the police department that would enforce it. It's the zoning bylaw, so it'd be the building inspector's office that would enforce it. And obviously, if a
That
place.
may be a little bit more difficult than.
It's gonna be pretty easy in terms of, if somebody wants to have a cultivation facility, they're gonna get denied a permit. It's like any other use that's disallowed under the zoning bylaw. Won't be any different.
But does this stop retail residential cultivation, the six
No,
plants?
no.
It's
This is
only-
just-
it's only for commercial purposes?
Just the commercial,
Okay.
yeah. It doesn't have anything to do with that. So you can continue to grow it if you want, you know.
Well, that's where I could imagine them trying to police that.
No, we can't affect that.
Don't we have an establishment in town that grows marijuana for sale?
It's medical.
I believe we have one that,
But we ship it out, it's not local.
yeah, no, my understanding of that is it's open, it's for cultivation for medical marijuana under a separate medical marijuana statute. That's in operation right now.
This has nothing to do with that.
No.
Zoning has absolutely nothing.
Nothing to do with medical marijuana.
Just wanted to make that clear. Yeah.
Well, hold on a second,
Existing
though.
non-conforming use, wouldn't it, if they decide to change to, I think they did, or they were talking about petitioning to do it as a retail sales going forward as opposed to medical.
Well, that would be another issue. I mean, right now, the medical could go forward, not as a non-conforming use, it would be an allowed use,
No,
medical marijuana.
but I believe that establishment, you may know more than I do, passing out up there, but I believe at one point in time, they had talked about changing their, that there was perhaps more opportunity just selling retail than medical. I'm not sure.
Well, I think that, here's the fundamental problem with either one of these. I don't think, to your point, that they've taken in any type of consideration for an established business. Now, granted, it's medical. But, let's be frank with one another. When you look at the science that they put in for medical, the technology that they have, the ability to grow, they're already set up. So why would we limit their potential growth in a different market? That's not being fair or reasonable to any business in Milford. And you know what? You can't have it both ways. You can't pretend you're pro-business and you're pro-jobs in one breath, and then suggest that, by the way, anything to do with marijuana, we want nothing to do with it. And to that point, you also have another company that does medical testing of marijuana. And again, why would you limit their ability to, to not grow their business? I think it's very short-sighted on the part, and I think we have to still be somewhat realistic that 500-600 voters in the town of Milford voted for recreational marijuana. And essentially what you're trying to do is you go into town meeting because it's a smaller pool, and you only want to convince 300 people that this is a good idea. And I think that they didn't take into consideration, and I'd be much more amenable if they considered either grandfathering the existing businesses or allow them to continue with their development, cultivation, and wholesale distribution. I'm not necessarily opposed to the whole concept of not retailing, but again, why would we limit their abilities to further their, what in theory that they're good at? I mean, that's their chosen business. It's like suggesting that no more attorneys can be allowed in Milford. I mean, it's just a foolish argument. But you understand, and I'm not trying to be critical of you, Jerry, but it's a foolish argument. Why would you do that? I just can't support that.
Yeah, I can't speak for the board as to what their reasoning was. They could tell you individually what they were thinking. But broadly, they considered it, and they did consider the question of, should it just be the retail sales, or should it all be all retail recreational activity? And they felt that, in their view of what was best for the town, was to have the voters have an opportunity to vote on a complete ban of all retail recreational activity. They thought that was the best for Milford from their point of view. I'm sure from the standpoint of how they want the community to be viewed. I'm sure they had a lot of other considerations too. But that's the way in the end, that's the way they looked at it.
Any other additional questions from the board before I open it up?
We should support them.
Support who?
Selectmen.
Not on this one. Being that this is a public meeting, any questions from anyone from the audience? Sir, just what you need to do is come up, identify your name and address. Please. That would be ideal.
Hi, my name's Dorian Deloria. I'm the CEO and founder of Perverti Laboratories. We're
Name again, I'm sorry.
Dorian, D-O-R-I-A-N, last name Delorier, D-E-S, capital L-A-U-R-I-E-R-S.
Thank you, sir.
I'm the CEO and founder of Perverti Labs at 420 Fortune Boulevard in Milford. And so we are a non-impact business here. To your point, we provide testing. Our mission, required by law, we're required by law to do what we do here. And we are there to ensure the public health and safety. That's our sole purpose to exist, is to make sure what people are consuming is clean and safe for them to consume. Now, if I'm testing 1 or 1,000 or 10,000 pieces, there's no impact to the community. It's all brought into our location, done inside, and results sent out. Same with growing. Growing is a non-impact business here in that we just provide jobs. We don't have an impact, so there's no social issue with us. People don't come to our locations to transact business with us. So I would like you to keep that in mind, that we're really good businesses here. We provide a lot of jobs, we'll provide a lot more jobs, and we're non-impact. So we'd like you to look at that way. If you do choose to ban us, I'm sure when our lease is up, we'll go to another location. And there are a lot of communities that would welcome us. We love it here. My business partner, he lives here. He's a resident here in Milford, which is why we came here to this town. And you are very business friendly. And we came through the entire town hall and talked to everybody that wanted to talk to us about what we do. And see our facility, the police have been over, the fire department has been over. We've had no issues with anyone. So to that end, we're good corporate citizens here. We provide a lot of jobs, and we're non-impact, and so we don't have any negative influence on the town. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Mike Dundas. I am CEO of Sage Naturals. We are the medical marijuana producer here in Milford. We've been operating here since 2014. We're very happy to be here. We employ over 55 people at our facility up on Commercial Way. And I think, as Dorian pointed out, we are similarly a zero-impact facility in the sense that we don't do any retailing of cannabis products, medical or otherwise, here in Milford. In fact, we've invested quite a bit of time and effort into producing a world-class marijuana cultivation and products manufacturing facility here in Milford. We're very proud of the products that we produce, and we aim to produce them to very high standards of quality and precision. And we think that we're making a good impact statewide in the medical marijuana program. And we hope to continue to operate here in Milford for as long as we are allowed to do so. I would simply say that this initiative, while again we have no desire and no plan to provide any retail cannabis here, I think when you look at the broader marijuana industry in Massachusetts, recreational marijuana has passed, and I think it would be very difficult for an organization like ours to survive only on medical marijuana. When we started this project 4 years ago, we did not intend to be faced with this issue. Frankly, I didn't believe that recreational marijuana would actually pass in the Commonwealth, but we are here today, and this is where we are. My fear is that all of the investment that we made in the 13 Commercial Way facility would eventually be squandered if we were not offered the opportunity, at least, to entertain the possibility of cultivating and manufacturing, but certainly not retailing recreational cannabis in the state. In the town. So I believe that we are doing everything that we can to produce safely. I believe we haven't had any impact on the surrounding community. We have had no negative complaints, no police reports, anything like that. We just quietly operate up at that area at 13 Commercial Way. So I would appreciate your forbearance and to allow us to continue to do what we do well here in the town of Milford. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So in front of us, we have the question on the article that speaks to,
The second one, I think.
well, we,
All right, is that the August
First one
22nd one?
is allows.
everything
just
but
not
retailing?
Right.
Is
The
that,
first
is
one
that,
outlaws the
That's right.
retailing.
The first one just outlaws, would just ban the retail.
retail, okay.
Okay.
And the second one, in theory, outlaws everything.
Everything
Okay.
recreational.
Jerry, do you have any additional comments in
Well,
in
it's-
regard to either one of these articles, since there are two of them?
No, you really do have to address both.
No,
of
no,
them,
that's my-
obviously,
that's my plan.
So, and No, I really don't. I mean, it's, the board is, the Board of Selectmen have decided that the best for Milford would be to ban it all.
Okay.
Obviously, the medical marijuana is gonna be grandfathered, the medical testing is gonna be grandfathered. There could be a question as to whether or not they'd be grandfathered to turn it to recreational. You can make arguments both ways. I really can't address that now. I have to face that issue when and if it ever comes. But again, right now, the board wants to go forward with the second version.
Let me just, for procedural, could you read the 702 posting, just so that we can address them both? Because technically, I didn't read the 702.
Application of the Board of Selectmen to amend the zoning bylaw by prohibiting marijuana establishments.
And again, knowing that this is a public meeting and knowing that we're addressing both articles in front of us, I will again ask anyone from the audience who has a question relative to either one of these articles. Nope. Okay. Any additional questions from the board?
Nope.
Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion, we send a favorable to town meeting on the first article.
Motion by Joe for a favorable, that would restrict only retail.
Sales. only retail
Sales.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure that I'm accurately capturing it.
Yeah, and this is all based on whatever happens in the vote in
Right.
September.
Well, no, yeah, yep. I have a motion for the first one favorable,
I'll second.
seconded by John for favorable. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the first article?
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous on the first article. Brings the question to the second article.
Make a motion, we send an unfavorable recommendation to the town meeting on the second article.
Motion made by Joe for an unfavorable for the second, seconded by Lena. Any further discussion on the second article? Hearing not. All in favor of unfavorable? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Jerry.
Can go home. Not
Yeah,
bad.
not too bad.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you for the explanation, Jerry.
No, yes.
Have a great day.
You're welcome.
They shouldn't be limited.
All right, we have a continued public hearing for F&D Central Realty for a special permit. And we also have a continued public hearing application for F&D Central Realty for approval of Bear Hill Village definitive plan.
God, are we gonna?
I have a question.
On this one?
Well, yeah, actually, on, when we discussed this before, they wanted 5 members of the board here and present.
Well, we're gonna ask for a continuation anyway, so I want 5 members for a vote, but
They wanted it the first times
there's
we
really
started.
nothing that's gonna really be of
Okay.
an impact. I have no problem with it today.
Bob, are you here to
You're just
address
giving
some of
an
the
update
road
on some of the
concerns or the
issues.
road? I think the last time you were here, I think that was some of the discussion points, that you were gonna do a little more engineering, I think.
Yeah, I'm just basically here as an update, to update you as to what progress we've made so
Okay.
far. So, well, at the last meeting, we came in with a plan showing what we proposed to do for improvements to Beaver Street, from the Maple Street intersection up to the Central Street intersection. And then, we were directed at that point to actually, because obviously you can see this is an aerial topo, so
Sure.
we have been, our survey crew may have finished today, hopefully they finish today, of going and detailing the edge of pavements, the existing stone walls, actual locations of driveways, utility poles, mailboxes and such. So we can get a very good detail of this area so that we can provide a widening plan for, to get this to at a minimum of 22 feet of pavement throughout this whole stretch. Also, we looked at these areas here where we have a bad curve in here,
I don't think it should.
another bad curve over in here, and we will
I say that
we'll be
because-
providing plans that will address
Back
that.
answering the questions that were driven.
And the other issue that came up at the last meeting was the request to now provide
I'm gonna go with it, it's fine.
interior sidewalks within the actual roadways of the community sections of the development. Where we have the one sidewalk for Casey Drive, we were asked to include sidewalks, one sidewalk on one side. So the plan you see now just is to show you that what we did was we added a sidewalk along here of this first section. Also added a sidewalk along this area here.
You have at least one sidewalk
up in
throughout the
here, so
entire
we have one
subdivision.
sidewalk throughout the entire subdivision now.
I think there was also a slight discussion, Bob, in terms of, I don't know if it's gonna be required right now, but if there was going to be room at the end of the cul-de-sacs where they meet Casey, if there'd be some sort of standing area, if you will, for children attempting to take the bus.
Like a bus route.
We weren't necessarily talking about an enclosure as much as we were looking for some sort of,
Extended,
clearing, if you will.
Yep.
enlarged sidewalk of
Yeah,
some sort.
yeah, something that we knew that they could safely get to and then stand.
Zane factor?
Yes, you remember, you remember.
Yes, we will, yeah, we will provide that once we get to the final design. That's not a problem. We have plenty of room at all these intersections where they intersect with Casey Drive. The other thing that's the progression is that we have met with the sewer department. Unfortunately, we have not received any kind of comment letter back from their consultant. We provided updated pump station plans and given them updated designs, and we're just waiting on a letter from them. So that's the progress to this point. Oh, also, I have been meeting with our environmental consultant to discuss ways to revise the wetland crossings to incorporate open bottom culverts to, address the requirements for open space flow. And I believe that in doing so, we are probably going to be able to reduce the amount of wetland disturbance and make sure we're not disturbing any bank that exceeds the requirements, so that we could possibly get the actual wetland disturbance at these crossings under 5,000 square feet, so we don't have to deal with oil and water quality and Army Corps. So that's where we are right now. So we're gonna ask for you to continue the hearing, have the extension for both the hearings. I don't know, are you still gonna meet on the 19th if that vote's on the 19th?
You can't have a public meeting on a, well,
Election day?
That's election night.
I don't, okay, here's the problem. I know if you can have a public meeting on the federal, my opinion, and I wish we had addressed this while Jerry was still here, I don't think you can have a public on an election night, to be perfectly honest with you.
I've already predated these for the 19th, but I can change it with Larry when he.
What's the
decide
second
when the next
meeting?
The next meeting would be the 19th.
19.
I would recommend that you go to the next one, Bob.
So you don't think you can
Well,
have
what
a
I don't
second
wanna do
meeting in
is-
September? All right, well, like I said.
No,
I'll
no,
give-
no,
I'll
no,
give
no,
this
no,
to
we
you.
can have a meeting.
Yeah,
I cannot hold a public
No, I
meeting,
know.
but certainly we can conduct other business.
So I'll give you these, and I'll discuss with Larry when, do you think you're gonna still hold a planning board meeting on the 19th?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I just won't be able to hold a public meeting or a continuation of a public meeting. That's all I'm
I'll just-
suggesting.
I'll talk to Larry and see when he can,
And I'm trying to be
just change
fair and
the date.
equitable to those that came here specifically for this. I don't
You're
want
gonna
to,
have to, you're gonna have to change that. We'll grant you an extension to the first meeting in October as part of this meeting, so that way that's
yeah, I
what's
think
in our
that's,
records.
I think that's a
Okay.
safer
You're gonna have
bet.
to change your letter to
If that
reflect
works for
that.
you.
That's-
All right. I'll just get Larry a new letter.
So when is the, October, just so we're exacting on this?
First and third.
I don't control
That'd
the
be the
elections.
first Tuesday.
Whatever the date is.
Yeah, what's the first Tuesday?
First Tuesday is October 3rd.
October 3.
So the applicants requested,
You wanna open up in case there's any questions in terms of public hearing before we take that vote?
I could, but I mean, I don't think he's really said anything that's going to be, but I certainly, if anyone has a question on the information that Bob provided relative to putting in sidewalks in the subdivision, anyone have any questions before I continue it? No?
Make a motion with grant extension to October 3rd.
Yeah.
Motion made by Joe, seconded by John to grant the extension to October 3rd. Any discussion on that? Hearing not. All in favor, opposed, unanimous. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
For both meetings.
Yeah, both of them will be.
Yes, yes, for both. And if, John.
That was quick, Dominic.
That was very quick.
It's
Too bad
vacation
you have
time.
to come back again.
We have a,
You want to tell the people that are here, just so they understand.
okay, so again, on the PRD, for the Bear Hill Village, that's going to be continued to October 3rd.
7 o'clock.
Assume 7 o'clock, I'm not really sure of the time, but early in the meeting. We have a continued application for Snowflake for a special permit Whitewood Preserve on Whitewood Road. Bob, in terms of 81P, or is that, you'll take care of it with,
Yeah, with Larry.
with Larry tomorrow? Okay. Thank you.
Night.
The Mylar, you'll either just leave or bring down, you can leave it with me. You can leave it with me too, I'll get it in.
Yeah, we don't have keys, but Mike does.
Yeah, we need some,
These are all the people from Snowflake.
Oh, tonight, did you have a problem getting in?
yeah, I got home.
Oh,
Thank you.
How's it done? Public hearing number.
Okay, Pete. Thanks.
This time,
Whenever you're ready, Peter.
Okay. For the record, again, my name's Peter Lavoy. I am the project manager on this project. So at the last meeting, there were a couple concerns regarding access. The main access road was 24 feet wide. So what we did is we looked at increasing the width to 26 feet wide with a drivable curb and then a 5-foot sidewalk along the side of that. So we increased the drivable area to like 31 feet.
So what are you referring to, like a slope curb?
Yeah, like a slope curb, but we asked for a bituminous, but it probably would have to be, because there's gonna be a sidewalk there, so it would be like drivable
Sure.
onto it, yeah. And then the other thing that was outstanding was the sewer. We did go in front of the sewer board, they did approve the plans, and I do have a letter from Tater and Howard giving stating that we're all set with the plans. I just got the letter today.
Yep.
that width only goes up to a certain intersection though, doesn't it?
And Mike just wanted me to let you know that 26 foot wide is gonna go to the first intersection here. So that, just this first cul-de-sac, so after this, it'll go back down to 24 feet with the sidewalk. There is sidewalk throughout the project. And those were the only two comments that were outstanding.
Questions from the board?
Not really.
No? Okay.
We
See,
don't have an actual, we don't have, the sewer board hasn't voted yet.
Correct. No, they
no, we don't
haven't.
have, we don't
They
have,
were just waiting for
this is
Tater
gonna
and
get
Howard.
continued too.
Right, Larry wanted me to.
Yeah, this is gonna get continued as well.
Yeah.
But being that this is a public meeting, is there anyone from the audience that has questions or concerns relative to this subdivision? If so, sir, just again for the record, please come up, state your name, address.
Yeah, Tony Bogner with the property adjacent here at 47 Whitewood Road. How wide was that going to be total? I'm sorry, I was trying to...
It's 26 feet of
26
pavement.
for pave?
And then a 5-foot sidewalk on the
Okay, so
side.
31
yeah.
31 feet, okay.
Probably gonna be a little more than that, assuming that you,
The curb, yeah.
yeah,
so
32.
32 would be the max. width.
Okay. So that continues not to require any kind of... what,
No grading, everything's within that 50-foot strip.
Since the last meeting? Okay.
Nothing changed grading-wise, just the width of pavement.
Okay. And then, let's see, in your map here, I was curious, you know, at the last meeting I was at, I saw pumping station here. Is that pumping station or pump house
Yep.
still
Yep.
depicted here on the...
It's right there.
Oh, okay, all right. It just seemed to be moved a little bit from the
No,
last time.
same
Oh, okay, I
spot.
might have misremembered that. Okay. Will that have vegetation around it when it's put in, or, I mean, right now
There
I'm
is-
looking at a forest behind me. I'm
Right,
We'll see
so,
that.
so there is a 100-foot area here which won't be disturbed, and then there will be, that will be covered with landscaping. There's a landscaping plan that shows landscaping around that
Okay.
concrete
All right.
structure.
I'm all
Can I just get your address again? Would
Oh,
you
yeah,
say-
47 Whitewood Road, right here. Yeah.
How do you spell your last name?
Bogner, B-O-G-N-E-R?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else have a question relative to this subdivision? No? Again, I'm going to encourage you to change it to October 3rd, unless you've already done so. You're the best. I have a, I have a grant of extension request for October 3rd. I have a motion from John, seconded by Lena. Any further discussion? What's that, Lena?
No, I was
Okay.
just thinking out loud.
Hearing not. All in favor, opposed, unanimous. Thank you. Okay.
Peter, you want these back?
No, he's gonna give it to Larry, because he didn't want to do what Peter did and just cross it off.
Pat, there's one more 81P.
No, that's, that one's been scratched.
Okay.
All right, thank you. We have a continued preliminary subdivision plan for 5 residential lots off of Fruit Street. Peter, is that yours?
That is mine.
Okay.
Hurry on.
This all mislabeled now because of what he did.
Pat,
Larry's got this all mislabeled because of the way he did this. Yes?
are you gonna read into the record the letter from the sewer department?
I'll get to that in a minute. I was just
Oh,
waiting for
okay.
him to set up. Actually, to be frank with you, I was assuming that they're gonna address that, to be frank with you. Thank you. Whenever you're ready, Peter.
Okay. So just to refresh everyone's memory, this is a small subdivision off of Fruit Street, which runs along the top of the page. Small little cul-de-sac. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 new lots that will be serviced by the cul-de-sac, and then that one single family that'll come off of Fruit Street. So we were in front of the board a while ago. Since then, we've made some changes to the plan. I can go through that. So basically, at the last meeting, one of the comments was continuing the 8-inch water line across the culvert, which I did. I put a hydrant at the end, and then off of that 8-inch line, 2 water services to this duplex and 2 water services to this duplex. So that would minimize the crossing of the water for one crossing. Second was drainage. So what I did is I raised the end and put a low point in the middle of the road right at the cul-de-sac. So at that point, I got rid of the waiver for grading in the right-of-way by doing that, because I lowered this and then came back up and created a low point. I added 2 catch basins with 4-foot sumps and then come across into a settling pond. So now we have some TSS removal. That has not been fully designed, but that's my plan. Then, because we did meet the sewer department on this project and did present to them at their last meeting. We missed the meeting in July, so we did go to the meeting in August and presented the plan. So their recommendations, we did take in account. They saw an older plan that didn't show how these lots were going to be serviced, so they had an outdated plan. So what we did is we had pump chambers in the back of these units that were going to pump up to a sewer manhole up here. One of their recommendations was moving the pumps to the front and tying into that manhole. But when you cross the culvert with the 2-inch force main. They want to put it in a duct, they want it sleeved to put in a ductile iron pipe, which we are proposing. We did propose that. They wanted the two up here, they want 2 separate sewer services. They will have their own sewer service. Each unit will have their own sewer service, as well as each unit will have their own water. We did discuss going out to Green Street. We did try to contact the abutters along the back. We got no response from that. And also the sewer department, they didn't want us to access out onto Green Street because it goes to a different system. So they wanted us to continue the Fruit Street access with the sewer. So we would have those sewer crossings, would try to keep them together to minimize that, and they also will have, they'll be in ductile iron. And so then you would have, you know, basically 5 crossings for that over the culvert. Also at the last meeting, there was a discussion, I'm with DPW. I made changes to Scott's recommendations about adding the handicap ramps at the front here. And I also wanted to discuss with him the driveways and other utility crossings. He did not have an issue with the driveways. He said it was, you know, maintenance that would have to take, when any other easement, if we have to cross it, we would have to put it back in its regular, you know, in its condition. But Scott did not have a problem with the driveways or the utilities crossing the culvert. So I did sit down with him and talk to him about that.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Thank you, Peter. Questions from the board?
Yeah, did you take into consideration Jerry's letter?
Regarding,
Godfrey Brook flood mitigation easement?
right, that's the easement that the culvert is within, that we're crossing with the utilities and driveways.
Yeah, he suggested that the landowners take responsibility if anything happened, I guess.
Well, if anything happened to the culvert, the town's responsible for the culvert, but if anything happened to the individual services, I would think that the homeowners would contact the
Yeah,
appropriate
it's up to them.
appropriate companies.
It's their cost.
Right, it's
Right.
they're using that.
Peter, what's the distance from the culvert to the properties themselves? Do you know? You're not really necessarily showing the culvert here that I can see. Oh,
Yeah, it's in
Well,
Yeah,
the
it's there.
culvert goes right.
The culvert goes right,
It's a parcel of land.
culvert goes right
With the
through
town's
here.
easement.
Right.
the problem is everything is black and white, and you'd think you could get this a little darker, but that's okay.
Right,
How
this-
far away is the properties from the culvert,
do you
excuse,
mean
from the easement?
The structures? I mean,
The
basically.
homes themselves?
The homes themselves, they're roughly between 50, this one's probably around 70 feet away.
Okay.
This one's probably 50 to the easement, so.
So again, I'm also assuming that somewhere in the titles, it's going to have to also be written in theory that they're prohibited from putting anything within the easement or X amount of feet from the easement or so on and
Correct.
so forth.
You can't put any, you can't put any structure, that's why.
No, I understand that, but again, I'm assuming that somewhere in the titles, it would have to
I would
reflect,
think each deed would.
would have to reflect such language.
Yeah, I'm working with them too, yes, absolutely, we'd have to put something, we'd want to be proactive and say that.
Well, you would have to, because you'd want to cover yourself, but I'm looking for the town.
And that they can't do anything to harm the culvert, and if the town has to go in there, the town necessarily doesn't have to repair it, they may have to repair it, and so forth.
You pay for the repair.
I don't know about that.
Well, town has to do the repair.
Well, in theory, this is an easement like no other easement, or like every other, I should say, easement that the town actually maintains, that they have access to it. Regrettably, if you put a fence on it, they're not, you know, yeah, and it's in their way and they take it down,
Well, I
they're
believe-
not obligated to repair it.
The easement, the wording of the easement goes along with the splitting of the lots.
Yeah.
The existing easement, whatever you have now, or whatever rights you have, has to be continued in each of the new lots that's created. That has to go through that way. we may want to enhance that to a certain extent. We can look at that as part of the final design plan, in that we had questions as to what you could or couldn't do. We may want to clear that up as part of what we want in the final easement.
Right, in the definitive, when we submit the
Right.
definitive, we will finalize everything.
Yeah, obviously, we don't want trees planted in there and stuff like that, because the town would have to pay for new trees to put them in. Right. I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now, but we can deal with that going forward.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, it's almost, you have to set it up as a buyer beware.
Correct.
It specifically tells you not to, and if you so chose, and obviously, we wouldn't want any type of vegetation in terms of trees and so on and so forth, on any type of easement, specifically that one. Any other questions from the board?
Peter, I'm just looking at your plan, is it a deck that you have out the back on the one to the left? Now, the furthest, no, next one over, because that actually, whatever that's sticking out is the closest, looks like it's the closest point to the easement. I'm just wondering if
Yeah,
that's
that's probably a bulkhead from the original house. I probably just, when I copied it, when I drafted it over.
Oh, that's a bulkhead
Yeah, I
coming
think
out?
it's a bulkhead.
Okay.
So that'll probably go away.
So is that three? It's three duplexes you're talking?
There's 4 duplexes.
Or Lena?
4 duplex.
Yeah, we're relocating the existing duplex to lot 4. We're just relocating the existing structure.
Small one.
That's an existing house right here.
Yeah, okay. And this is,
Excuse me, thank you.
No, existing.
oh, okay,
That's not moving. Existing's
yeah.
And if you want, you can look at the profile. It gives you the depths of the culvert and the other crossings. I added that.
So you're gonna super elevate the cul-de-sac to the outside then, based on what you have there now?
Yeah, correct. Well, basically, I just lowered this down. I came down quicker and then came back up.
Yeah, but once you get in the cul-de-sac, because you only have catch bases on the outside or outside and inside?
Just on the outside.
So you're gonna have to,
Yeah.
Yes, yep.
And you pulled it back too, right?
No, the cul-de-sac, it's in the same location as it was originally.
Like this
It
show.
wasn't on the.
Yeah, it's not on the culvert.
Right.
So,
I'm not overjoyed.
Pat, I just happen to see some people that live on Fruit Street in the audience.
sure.
Is it all right if they
Sure.
speak?
Sure.
Even though this isn't,
It's not a public hearing, but by all
Public
means,
hearing.
you made it out. The least we can do is,
okay.
all I ask is that you come up, identify yourself by name and your address, please. If you so choose to speak, obviously. There you go.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Brad Matchak from 9 Fruit Street.
Thank you, sir.
Just a couple of questions. If consideration has been given to the inconvenience of this construction of and the existence of this subdivision to the current residents on Fruit Street in the area, with all of the construction being done, it's going to be temporary but a sizable impact to the current residents as far as the sewage interruptions, the water quality, which is, I can only speak for my residents, questionable at best. It's certainly not going to get better that I can see. And also traffic. There's a lot of traffic that uses Fruit Street as a cutover from South Main to Main Street. They do not obey speed limits the majority of the time. It's thickly settled. There's no posted speed limit. Thickly settled is 30 miles an hour. Oftentimes, there are many cars come through on a daily basis that exceed that up to and including 50 miles an hour. And then there's motorcycles, which use it as a launching ramp to South Main Street, and they get up to 60 miles an hour easily. Where that subdivision will be located, there's a definite blind spot from any traffic coming from Main Street towards South Main Street. I live right on the curve, and if you're going to put that subdivision there, you look to the left, all you're going to see is trees and the 2 residences next to it. They won't see around that corner. And in the summertime, early morning, if they look to the right, they're going to get a face full of sunshine. They're not going to be able to see traffic coming that way. Just a couple major concerns with the traffic patterns. And is there anything else you'd like to add? Because I know you had some notes. My wife would like to speak as well. I just want questions concerning that, those 2 items specifically. Thank you.
Carol Matchak, 9 Fruit Street. I have a couple of questions regarding, I'm a town meeting member, and I remember that we voted you had to have so much square footage for duplexes, because we're trying to keep our area of town they're just cramming houses in, turning other houses into duplex, and now we're talking about cramming, was it 3 more units, moving the existing one and adding an additional? 4.
Technically
Do they
4.
have enough
16,000
land for that?
16,000 square foot lots.
Do they have enough land for that? And then there's a lot of trees, there's the brook, there's a lot of wetlands, we watched the culvert go in, it's not a little pipe, I could stand up in it. I mean, it's huge. And so we have some concern about, we have beautiful, woods and everything there. Are they just gonna take everything down and they're just gonna put houses in the middle? I mean, Fruit Street is already very congested. And we have the park there, and that corner, I don't know if you guys have ever driven on Fruit Street, that corner there, it is blind, like my husband said. And in the wintertime, the highway department goes straight down the middle. They don't do the curve, so Fruit Street also gets very narrow. And we're talking about at least 2 cars per unit. That's a lot of cars adding to the street. So we do have some concerns, because that is literally in my backyard. So that's the concerns that we have, that it's gonna be too congested. Seems like an awful lot of units for that property. I understand that they have the right to develop it, but it seems like it's going to be overly developed.
I just want to tell you that the way they laid this out, they are compliant and able to build duplexes. As strange as it may sound,
I mean, that's right between Fruit and Green Street. I mean, it's all gonna be, you guys
disagree.
gonna take all the trees down?
I don't, in terms of what they're going to do, I'd be of the opinion that they're probably gonna take most of them down, and whatever they replant, they're gonna replant. Again.
300-year-old trees versus ones this big, you know.
And I say this not because of the developer, I just simply say because that's typically what happens in most subdivisions, so.
It just seems an odd place to put a subdivision, right in the middle of downtown Milford. And like I said, Fruit Street's extremely congested, Green Street's extremely congested, Vine Street's back there. I don't know how this impacts Godfrey Brook, which we've spent, as a town meeting member, I know how many millions we've spent to keep that from flooding. So we have a lot of questions about that. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Questions from the board? Pleasure of the board.
Very quiet board.
Yes, sir.
Just one additional question I meant to ask, Lena had asked earlier. I'm aware that the sewer commission had not recommended, did not approve these changes. And I understand that this was an old plan that they were looking at. Has there been any update to that from the sewer commission? Are they still?
I think what Peter alluded to, let me just back up for a second. At one point, we had asked them to evaluate if they could perhaps bring the sewer through an easement to people or a person who lives on Green Street and connect that way. I'm not sure if Peter exercised that or they had discussions about that. I'm not really sure, but Peter again alluded to that the sewer board, it was not favoring them connecting into Green Street because of the way the sewage flows, and that they would prefer, and I'm assuming it has to do with capacity, so I'm assuming it's the size of the pipe that's probably on Green Street opposed to what's on Fruit Street is what I'm assuming their contention was. So in terms of what Peter perhaps showed to them as of recently, I can't speak to that. I think Peter also made mention that they were going back and that they were looking at, I think the plan that he's now submitted presently, which if I'm incorrect, is that the one? Clearly, they didn't see this one.
No, they saw the one just before this.
Which I don't recall what that one was, but.
That one, the only difference was
They had
that
did each one have its own crossing?
each one had its own crossing, and the pumps were in the back of those 2 units.
Okay,
They
so-
wanted me to move forward, so I took in their recommendations from the meeting, and that's what's shown on this plan. This is,
So you need to clearly go back to the,
well, we're gonna get a letter from them,
definitive
and then
anyways.
to the
No,
definitive.
I know that, but the other question I have in terms of that, what's the update with the water company? Because at the first glance, they were suggesting that they weren't providing. But again, I'm unclear of what they mean by that. in terms of they're not providing it today, or until you're ready, they're not gonna decide. So I don't know what that means. So if you can give me some sort of update
Well, I
about the water department?
I talked to the water department, and they basically said because of the, right now, at this time, they only have one well that is servicing the whole town. So right now, they don't have, they're waiting for another well to be, I guess it's in the middle of being repaired or updated. So at this time, that's why they put that comment on all their letters.
I understand that, but it doesn't really help the cause in terms of moving forward. Either they can, you're not building this tomorrow.
Correct.
So the question is,
So down the road.
I don't, hold on, Pete. I don't know how long it's gonna take them to fix their pump. I don't know what their problem with their pump is. I don't know these things, and I personally, it doesn't really mean much to me. My question is, they should be able to forecast when they believe that their pump's gonna be online in terms of, okay, you know, we now have additional work. We don't think that this house, that this subdivision would be fully built out for 14 months. And again, I'm just using a number, so I struggle with trying to figure out how do you proceed when, again, we don't have the sewer, which obviously we're gonna need that, and the water, which I don't quite understand how do you proceed based on what you just said to me.
Well, basically what I was told is that all these developments that have come in front of the water department recently have got that comment on it.
So you're putting in wells?
No, he couldn't give me an answer.
I'm not trying to be challenging with you, but
Probably can't build them, Steve.
this is my point. I don't know what direction to go in because what you just said to me was logical. But it doesn't really help to try to forecast what we should do because obviously if you can't be supplied by water, then you're not gonna be able to move forward. And again, I'm not trying to.
That's the same thing with all the other
I-
developments too.
Pete, I understand that, but the other ones are not at the end point. And again, you're here for,
Well, we're not,
for,
we
no,
still
I
have to
understand
do the
you
definitive.
haven't done the definitive, but again, these are logical questions. I'm just trying to get some sort of, you
Well,
know.
we'll have to answer that as part of the definitive. As
Yeah,
of right now.
No, I
as of
get
right
that,
now,
but you
what
would-
he shows, all we need to do is make a decision on whether
Whether
what
it's
he shows
workable,
or not is
yeah.
workable or not. But the answer to me is, yeah, it is. If he comes back and doesn't have water on a definitive, then that's on him.
Yeah,
I agree.
correct.
And like I said, I'm not trying to be challenging,
No, I
but it
understand.
just,
No, I couldn't get.
we can't keep circling around. I mean, someone at that department needs to make a decision in terms of knowing when they're gonna have their, you know, pumps online. That just doesn't make sense.
The way I'm thinking is by the time this is approved, the other well will be up, the town will have 2 wells, and then.
Don't rush it.
I don't know, Pete. I really don't
That's what
know.
I was told.
That's what you're guessing, okay.
That's what I was told, and then I made the changes to the sewer department's comments, so I feel that when we go back to them in the definitive stage, that they would approve this plan.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
You know, there was any waiver request, Peter?
No waivers.
No, they didn't request a waiver. They took his waiver off.
The unwavering.
Sorry, I don't know any reason why we wouldn't approve the preliminary plan.
Motion by Joe to approve the preliminary. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Seconded by John. Any further discussion?
Shoot down the other one.
Hearing not. All in favor? Opposed?
I'm opposed.
3 in favor, 1 opposed.
Peter, you should check your site distances when you come back
I
on
will,
a
I will.
definitive and make sure you provide the details on each of the crossings, whatever that's gonna look like.
That's funny,
You
we
mean crossing to the culvert?
talked about
Okay,
4
no, I will.
places here,
I'm definitely gonna check site
duplexes,
distance, so.
which is 8
Okay,
units.
thank you.
Oh, I know.
And Donald.
Jimmy Roberti.
Give you one up the hill.
But I hope they're all calculated.
All right, we have a site plan review for 445 East Main Street.
I know I'm talking about.
The applicant is requesting amended site plan approval to allow for a change of use on the subject property.
They're getting as much out of it.
Specifically, the changes from the former nightclub, the AAC, to a Buddhist meditation center. The existing building is to be remodeled, including the construction of a 3,500 square foot addition. The parking and driveway are to be reconfigured, with the removal of some 26,981 square foot of existing paving. The new 40-space parking lot will be more than sufficient for the proposed meditation use, which will include a limited number of small dormitory type rooms for short-term student participants. Being classified as a religious use, the proposed redevelopment is unaffected by the usual zoning configuration existing on the property. In addition, the proposed design will dramatically improve the site from both the land use as well as an environmental standpoint. All applicable zoning requirements appear to be met, and therefore Larry is recommending approval to the amended site plan. Mike, can you run down your concerns, please?
Sure, my concerns only dealt with the existing septic system that is there now.
Okay.
Since then, additional information has been provided back.
Okay?
That I believe is, the engineer can go over, that's incorporated in these plans that are just handed out, but basically, there has been a Title V inspection done on the septic system itself, and it passes. So I'm requesting for the actual components and the leaching field to be located due to the addition, that's part of Title V. And then with the Title V inspection, which is another portion of my comments, I did not know the Title V had been done prior to, because it wasn't submitted as part of the package.
Sure.
So I think with his presentation and these additional notes, they've been addressed.
Okay. From the fire department, he's requesting a proposed hydrant to be located within 50 feet of the building. The water company refers to the materials that you're to use.
Yeah, it's kind
They're not suggesting that they're not providing you water, so I think you're good.
It's 'cause
Well, they
existing.
do, but it says, any existing water service lines to be abandoned must be terminated at the water main, so. All right, Peter.
Just wanna check something.
Checking to see where the hydrant is?
Yeah, if
it's
it's
right
within
here.
50 feet.
Ah,
It's 90.
well, according to the fire chief, he's gonna want you to relocate that. So obviously on your plan, you're gonna submit that you relocated it.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so the project is located off the East Main Street, which runs along the side of the page right here. This is the existing AAC in pink. So basically, we have the existing septic system that Mike was talking about in this location here. Basically, the entrance, basically all you see green is pavement, except this area here behind. So if you come over here, everything over here is already pavement. So basically what we're doing is we're shrinking the drive, removing all this pavement and adding grass. So all that parking is being removed. We reconfigured this parking area here, which shows 40 parking spaces. We do have a one-way drop-off area in front and out. We are going to add this 3,500 square foot addition in the front right here onto the existing structure. The existing water is gonna stay, the existing gas will stay. Basically, drainage-wise, there is no drainage out here now, it's all sheet flow out to the wetlands. They do have an existing 10-inch pipe that connects this wetland to this wetland, and it's clogged. So at high storm events, the water raises and comes onto the existing parking area. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean the pipe down to this point. We are adding 1, 2, 3, 4 catch basins with 4-foot sumps. That'll all be collected, brought to this point, and then discharged basically here instead of right at the property line. So it'll go into a grass swale with check dams to get some more additional treatment. Basically, I did add 2 notes per Mike's comments. One was basically saying that we would locate all the septic system components prior to construction. And then 2, I referenced that there was a Title V done in May, but after 6 months, we will do another Title V to make sure it's working properly. Basically, the system is well over-designed from, what the use that we're using. We are going from 173 parking spaces to 40, So there is a 6% reduction in pavement. So basically, this falls under, redevelopment. We are making the site better because we are collecting all runoff on the pavement and we are treating it.
Well, more importantly, I mean, I don't think this building's been utilized in, 20 years? 15 anyhow,
Correct.
so.
That's basically it. We have been in front of conservation. They did give us an order of conditions at their last meeting in August. That's basically it.
Thanks, Peter. Questions from the board?
Other than cleaning the pipe, Peter, you putting anything in front of it? I just see it getting silted up again in terms of,
We could probably put a grate in front of it, but I think right now you have all this just flowing right in from the pavement. I don't know what I don't know what clogged it, and maybe it's just vegetation. I don't know.
you may be better off putting a structure there, running the pipe into a structure with a sump and then running it out so that at least you can get to the sump and clean it out. You have a chance of looking at the sump and seeing if it fills in and cleaning it out as opposed to, because the grate, chances are you're not gonna have, the openings on the grate aren't gonna be small enough to stop it. It's probably silt that's coming in, so it's not gonna stop it. I would suggest you put a structure there with pipe coming in and out of it on both sides, and then have a sump in the structure so that we can clean it out.
Like an outlet control structure, kind of?
You can put a manhole, catch basin, whichever you prefer. I mean, the grading doesn't really provide for a catch basin, so a manhole cover would be fine, but just, the only thing with a catch basin cover was at least you could look inside it and see if it's silting up. But I think the pipe's just gonna get clogged again. I would
So are you saying, do you want me to put a manhole,
put a manhole right before what you have as your pavement. Right at the edge of that pavement, so
Oh,
the pipe
okay.
comes into the manhole, you see the catch basin. You can put it in the edge if you want, and put it actually in the pavement if you want, right at that corner. And then you can look in, it'll have a sump, so we can at least collect 3 feet of silt on the bottom, and then the outlet pipe just stays exactly the same. You're just gonna cut that pipe out and put a manhole structure in the middle of it.
Okay.
At least it'll give you a chance to be able to clean that out.
Right, like in line though, not at the beginning.
No, right in line,
At first, I thought you meant at the beginning.
No, 'cause you can't really put it, I don't want you in the wetlands either.
Right, so
doing
you
it.
want it right in the grass area.
Either in the
there.
grass area, or if you want to use it as a catch basin in terms of your drainage, you can put it right in the pavement.
Yeah.
And use it as a catch basin. I don't know that your grading provides you with flow there or not, but I'm not really worried about the flow. So if you want to put it in the paved area, put it there with a catch basin cover, and that way they can always look at it and see if the line's silting up. And it'll also give them an easier point to go out and flush it if they have to in the future. They don't have to get into the wetlands or down the far end.
Okay, I can do that.
Any other questions?
Do you have to be a Buddhist to go there?
No,
Oh, good. It's open to everyone.
Pleasure of the board.
I need. Send a favorable,
Motion to approve the amended site plan, subject to the
Right.
changes that we've discussed.
Right.
Motion by Joe to approve the amended site plan, subject to the relocation of the fire hydrant and the drainage.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
right,
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a amended site plan for 455 Fortune Boulevard. The applicant is requesting amended site plan approval to allow the installation of a freestanding sign on the subject property. Specifically, the proposal is for a 6 by 11.75, 70.5 square feet, double-faced, internally illuminated freestanding sign. The sign structure will not exceed 14 feet in overall height and is to be orientated perpendicular to the street, being some 56.42 feet south of the northerly driveway of the site.
thanks.
The sign will be located near the front property line, but shall not be located within the street right-of-way. The small existing freestanding sign is to be removed. Therefore, Larry is recommending approval, subject to relevant agency comments. Mike, has your comment in terms of the location been addressed?
with this document, I haven't seen, yes, it appears that it has.
Okay. And the fire chief has no comments or concerns. The water company has no comments or concerns either. Lucky you.
Surprising.
It's all yours, sir. Just for the record, please identify your name and business address, or business name and so on and so forth.
My name is Mario Castagna, Castagna. I own a Sign Me Up sign company. Just, I thought it was gonna be a routine sign permit, and I was told I had to come in front of site plan review to, we're gonna relocate, remove the existing retrofit sign and replace it so that it'll accommodate all the tenants within the building.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, looks good.
I guess I'm still trying to figure out where's the sign going? Do we know?
Well,
Based on Larry's comments?
I submitted a
I'm getting the sense that they're just,
bunch of plans.
that, yeah, well,
Is that it right there? You have it?
it's going right there. Now, where's the old sign?
Right there?
So it's just relocation of the old sign, so remove and replace, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure.
That's-
'cause I
that's
didn't-
what you got out of it,
I'm
remove and
looking over
replace?
here and I'm getting worried that, you know, near the entrances and stuff.
No,
That looks like it should be okay.
It's on a curve too, so it's not.
so remove and replace.
Yeah, removing.
I don't think that's the existing sign. 'Cause I think the existing one is more, just says Clark, doesn't it? Maybe it says more stuff. Okay.
Yeah, it's a smaller one.
Yeah.
That says
But
retro.
I don't think it really even stands out, per
Not a
se.
lot.
That's why I don't think it's noticeable.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
all right, well,
noticeable
yeah,
for
this one-
retrofit,
this
it's
one's
just
down,
that
yeah.
there's,
No, but-
they're only allowed one sign, so.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
Move we approve it.
Motion by John to amend the site plan, seconded by Joe?
Yeah.
With Louis Lena?
Yeah,
All, any discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of 3.
Three.
I don't know. I think she'll be right back. I know, but I wasn't gonna say that, thank you.
There she comes.
How, soon, just a quick question, how soon can I go get a building permit once this decision, how fast does this decision get recorded?
Well, Mike, doesn't he have to give a plan to you to have signed,
Thank
Mike?
you very much.
He has to give a plan to Larry to have signed,
Yeah,
Mike?
do you have a plan or anything with you that the?
You're gonna have to have the site plan,
What's your address?
it's right there in
45
Millis.
Causeway Street in Millis.
It's right here. You know what, yeah.
I didn't bring the site plan with me, I brought all the plans that have created.
Well,
No, you're gonna need the
site
site plan.
plan, this plot plan that was shown, I already put that away.
He doesn't have the Mylar or anything, so he's gonna have to,
Was it on Mylar or is it on a paper?
Just on a paper.
Yeah, he probably doesn't have Mylar.
all right.
Is it this is the site plan?
It was a bigger version, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the one they're supposed to sign, the bigger version.
okay.
So you're gonna have to get in touch with Larry.
You're gonna have to bring it to Larry, and then Larry will call only the chair for the.
Yeah, just chair for
So
signature. on
bring that Mylar or
You
that
better
larger
hope I'm in a
plan,
good
bring it
mood
to
that
Larry.
day.
Okay.
Yeah, if you brought it today and got signed, you go get it tomorrow.
Joe, can you do 6?
Where did those go?
Yep.
I have no idea.
So I dropped them off to Larry, and he said, that you guys get a copy of that, no?
I can go in my office and go in Larry's room and see if I can find it, if you guys want me to.
No.
No, let him get in touch with Larry, because
Bring it
I
down
don't
and
know
then, and
where.
then,
Tomorrow morning.
just bring it to Larry and he'll reach out to Pat and then
Yeah, no
Pat.
problem, I'll bring it to Larry tomorrow. They're just,
Who's the those?
tenants are anxious to get their
These
sign.
are,
All
this
right, thank
is
you
this
very
one
much.
to Larry.
Oh,
Appreciate
Sure
your
they
time.
are.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a great night.
Good
you
night.
too.
I'm gonna abstain on this one.
Okay, what is this?
6.
What,
ZBA
Daniel?
variance referral, 435 East Main Street, Daniel Hoyt. The applicant requests a variance to construct a detached, single-family dwelling on the subject property. The lot is non-conforming as to area and frontage within the RC zoning district. The existing dwelling mobile home is to be raised. Given the circumstances, the appropriate relief is a special permit, not a variance. Further, the proposed house will conform to all other applicable zoning requirements. Larry makes a favorable to the zoning board, recommends a favorable to the zoning board of appeals for the special permit approval. I've seen no one here, I guess there's no one here.
Nobody here.
Let him when you get a chance.
Yeah. So let's see if we can figure this out.
So they're gonna build a house on that?
They're going to raise the existing and put a duplex.
Put a duplex.
No, I don't believe a duplex.
Oh,
I
it
don't think
says-
it's zoned for that.
It says a
I was gonna
split.
say,
Oh, okay.
It says a split,
proposed split house.
right.
This is actually just past what we just discussed, the old AAC, on
Right.
the same side, just
It's a
past.
Oh,
split entrance.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that.
So as Larry says, the proper is, yeah, what did Larry say? in his
Favorable
letter?
to the zoning board.
It was a.
Or a
let me
variance,
see if I
correct?
have That letter back. I think it was for a hardship variance, but hold on.
I think they may have submitted for a variance, but he believes the proper procedures should be.
Special permit.
special permit.
Special permit.
What it is, it's an existing lot that's undersized with smaller frontage, but it was in existence prior to the
Yeah.
current zone, so they're just cleaning it up, the paperwork.
All right, I recommend a favorable report to zoning.
For the special permit approval.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Motion by John to recommend to zoning board favorable for special permit as opposed to the variance that was brought with the application.
I'll second
Seconded
that.
by Lena. All those in favor? Opposed? 3 in favor, 1 abstention.
Thank you, Joe. We have a ZBA variance referral for 14 East Street. Oh, can I have that letter back? I'm sorry. The applicant requests a variance to subdivide the existing 18,456 square foot conforming lot to create another building lot. The existing building is a two-family dwelling, and as such, the property is considered conforming as to the use and lot area. The application ignores the special permit requirements for two-family dwelling size lots in the RA zone, and if granted, would create a zoning violation for the proposed new lot for the two-family dwelling. The application also ignores the frontage and width requirements for the proposed lot. Furthermore, there is no conditions relating to the shape or topography of the property that constitutes a hardship. Therefore, Larry is recommending unfavorable.
Sounds like.
Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion, we send an unfavorable recommendation to the zoning board.
Motion by Joe, seconded by
Yeah, I'll do it too.
John for unfavorable. Any discussion on the unfavorable? May I have your letter, please? Hearing not, all opposed of the unfavorable? Unanimous unfavorable. We have a ZBA special permit for 87 South Main Street. The applicant requests a ZBA special permit to allow for the sale of used motor vehicles on the subject property. The existing use is a longstanding non-conforming auto repair shop in the RA building, residential zone. ZBA Section 313 deals with the possible extension of nonconformities in general, while ZBA Section 3.10 specifically relates to unregistered vehicles. Section 310.2 provides for ZBA special permit approval for all outdoor placement of unregistered vehicles. But the addition of used vehicle sales for the subject property constitutes the addition of a separate use that is prohibited in the RA district and would also require a Class II dealer's license from the Board of Selectmen. The auto repair business will generate the same amount of traffic whether or not the vehicles being repaired are registered. However, to add the separate use of auto sales to the site that has been a long problem due to site upkeep and over intensification of use is ill-advised. Larry is recommending unfavorable.
I think I would too.
Motion by John for unfavorable. Do I have a second on the unfavorable?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Lena. Any discussion? Hearing not. All in favor of the unfavorable? Opposed? Unanimous towards the unfavorable.
Pat, does some of, does Larry's letters go with the?
Yes.
Yes.
They do, okay, I just want to make sure.
Yep, no,
There
no.
you go.
Okay.
I'm rapid firing them at
Rapid
Karen.
firing. Can
you know.
Can you give me one?
Oh, certainly, certainly.
Hey, they tried though.
Look, I'm really interested in the size of these lots.
Okay.
Thank you. We have a ZBA appeal variance referral for 7 Florence Street. The applicant is concurrently appealing a decision of the building commissioner and seeking a variance on the subject property. The property consists of 16,000 square foot lot within the RB zone. which is comprised of smaller parcels that were previously merged by law. As to the appeal, the building commissioner's letter, see attached, details his decision in the complex case to consider the former parcel merged by law. As to the variance request, there are no circumstances relating to the size, shape, or topography of the property or otherwise that would consider a hardship. Therefore, Larry is recommending unfavorable. The letter from the building department, which was delayed, according to this, gives history of 4 lots that currently are redesigned as 7 Florence Street in Milford. The history that you provide is very thorough, and I recognize that the history is also very problematic in terms of determining whether or not this is overall 16,000 square foot parcel of land may be divided into 2 lots, both available for use and occupancy of single-family proposed under our zoning bylaw. I'm just gonna skip to the end where he,
B, right?
No Florence
yeah.
Street.
Make a motion, send an unfavorable recommendation.
I agree.
Motion by Joe for unfavorable, seconded by John. Any discussion on the unfavorable? Hearing not. All in favor of the unfavorable? Opposed? Joe and John. Unanimous.
All right.
Hold on, we're not quite done there, kid. You good?
I like that.
Okay.
I know I asked you that question the other day when I talked to you on the phone. I mean, I'm gonna have to make it.
Ento.
No, you just let me know.
Oh, by 16, that isn't too bad.
Oh, no, that's right.
Let's see, we have a ZBA variance referral for 20 Purchase Street. The applicant requests a variance to construct a 12 by 16 deck off the rear of the existing single-family dwelling on the subject property. The property is a non-conforming lot as to area, width, and frontage. The dwelling is non-conforming as to side yard setback. The proposed rear deck will be an extension of the side north building line. However, the building is not parallel to the side property line, which results in a further slight encroachment into the required side yard. The rear corner of the house is currently 5.2 from the side property line. The proposed deck will be 4.7 from the side property line. At the rear corner, 10 foot is required. Larry is therefore recommending favorable to the ZBA.
Yeah, doesn't look that bad, actually.
No, I just looked at it.
I guess I'll go with unfavorable.
Motion by Joe for,
Well, I shouldn't say unfavorable. I'm fine with it, provided it doesn't impinge on the rear yard any more than the 5.2 now.
Right.
That he should change the deck such that he slides it over, so that it's no closer to the side yard than presently.
I'll put that in there.
That's my recommendation. I don't, he's continuing the backyard and making a non-conforming condition worse. And there's not, to me, I don't think this, he's telling me he's making his kitchen bigger, which I have no idea how he's doing that, considering he says he's only putting on a deck. But,
Oh,
well, I'm just reading what was written. I want to go into the corner of the house with the proposed deck. Some kitchen will be little bigger. Then he's doing something with dinner, but I can't tell what it is. But I don't have an issue with it if he remains at 5.2 and just slides that deck over a couple feet.
just a deck in the backyard, so my kitchen will be more useful to my family.
so.
I don't understand how a deck is gonna be useful to his
Well,
kitchen.
exactly. I mean, unless the door is right in the corner, such that this would, you'd end up having to put this at an angle. But if the door is not right in that corner, there's no reason why, to me, he can't slide that deck over a foot or foot and a half in from the corner, and he'd be.
I don't disagree with you, but I'm just trying to I
No, I
want
know,
to be
I-
able to use my outdoor space kitchen.
Right.
Would be very small. I don't know what he's referring to.
Right, that made no sense
I
to me,
don't
that's why I got
understand.
worried.
I don't know what an outdoor space kitchen, is that like?
Is he trying to suggest that he wants easier access to his outside,
Grill?
propane grill? I don't know what he's saying.
I don't know.
That's what I was wondering.
Anyways, as far as I'm concerned, regardless of that, if the deck were at 5.2, I don't have an issue with it, if it's no closer to the existing side yard.
So,
Hold on. I want to go
That's not
in
how
the
I was reading.
corner of the house with the proposed deck. Some kitchen will be little, bigger. I call dinner.
Yeah, that's why I said I got.
It's either I call dinner or I can dinner.
Just a deck in the backyard, so my kitchen will be more useful to my family.
I don't know how one relates to the other.
So, Joe, what are you gonna do? Favorable?
I don't know what you're
I
gonna
have no issue with sending a favorable recommendation to the ZBA, provided that the side yard setback of 5.2 is maintained with the construction of the new deck.
That's good.
All right, I'll second
Did you
that.
get that?
No, I didn't.
Could you repeat that, please?
No.
Send a favorable recommendation to the zoning board, provided that the 5.2 side yard setback is maintained with the construction of the new deck.
Motion by Joe, seconded by John on that.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing not, all all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. I don't know where we are in terms of the retaining wall construction. My feeling on this one, since I know Babe was adamantly opposed and felt that the plan should have been adhered to. I don't know what the contention of, or the position of the board is. Obviously, I'd like to kind of, unless, and again, I'm not trying to influence what you're thinking, but I don't know what people's views are. Obviously, if a decision's being made that's contrary to what Babe's feeling is, obviously, I think that we should move this to the next meeting, I guess is my point.
Exactly.
Right.
But if you're in agreement with him, then there's not really a reason to move it to the next meeting. And again, I'm not trying to influence what you're thinking, but
I went up there to take a look.
some of them are right on the road, practically.
Well, and that was my issue, looking at it. Obviously, the sidewalk isn't in yet.
Nope.
On one side, and there's no guardrail. And I'm
Nope.
looking at it saying, okay, how do you install guardrail in this?
I don't know.
To begin with, even if we would allow it, I don't know how you install the guardrail, and that would then become an issue for
Well,
the town maintaining it if it ever was
Vo-
ruined.
It would become void. The problem is, once you put the guardrail in between the rocks, in time, it's going to become compromised. And ultimately, the town's gonna look back and say,
Why did you do that?
this is why it should have been concrete, not rocks,
Should have been
because
concrete.
it's all eroded and washed away. And I agree, because again, there's some of them right on top. I also don't like what they did on that, on that culvert. But you look at some areas, it's like it's 20 feet off the road. And it's really,
Yeah, as it gets back here, I don't have an issue with it staying, but here,
That's
here as
foolish.
it goes over,
Yeah,
I
it's
think you
foolish.
need, so I don't know that it saves them anything to say, well, you might be able to keep, you might be able to keep this thing down here, but you're gonna need to replace this with concrete. And anything that's near the road where you've gotta mount the guardrail has to be,
Well,
has to
one-
be,
one is-
we can't be driving guardrail through this.
one
through this
honest to God comes from someone's driveway, circles around and heads up the road.
Yeah.
And honest to God, you couldn't put, I don't know how you'd ever put a guardrail there, and it's just foolishness, and it's already eroding.
Right.
It's going through the
Yes.
stone, so, well, obviously it should.
I agree with Babe.
Okay, well,
I
I think
agree with Babe.
I think on this topic, we'll move this to.
We'll move it to the next
Yeah,
meeting,
yeah.
or 2 meetings out.
No, we don't need to do,
Not public
this is not a public hearing, this one's fine to discuss on the
Yeah,
19th.
I know that.
I just, the problem is you can't have a public meeting. Larry will argue with me, but the reality of it is that people are voting, and you're having a public meeting, and by the way, last year, don't forget what they did to us, okay, is they gave up the room.
They did give up the room.
So-
Yes.
Remember that
We
one?
gotta make sure that they don't do that this year.
All right. I'll make a
I
motion,
didn't make the decision last time, and I forget why they gave up the room.
I'll
Oh,
make a
well, it
motion
was
we
voting.
adjourn.
It was the voting
Motion
for
by,
selectmen, and
Second.
Motion
Brian
by
Murray.
John, seconded by
They can shut the TV off.
Joe for adjournment. Thank you and have a good night.